Welcome to The Married Therapist,
a relationship podcast
hosted by us, Luis and Amber Simide.
This podcast is all about love, conflict, and the gray areas.
If you like what you hear, be sure to like and subscribe wherever you're listening. Now let's get to the show. Welcome back to The Married Therapists. Cheers.
Cheers. We just went to a coffee place and got delicious iced lattes. So we are ready to go because it's a gloomy day and we are very tired and we needed a little boost. So we're excited to actually have the energy to do this.
Yeah, it's just what we needed. So today we're going to talk about something that's been in the news recently. It's kind of been all over the place. It's a really big controversy in this administration, one of many, obviously, but this whole Kristi Noem and Bryon Noem controversy, where for those of you guys who don't know it, Kristi Noem is the former Secretary of Homeland Security, and her husband was recently caught having online affairs with various sex workers for years and allegedly has spent upwards of $25,000 on these workers. And it was revealed earlier this year when one of those workers leaked a photo of him where he was engaging in this kink called bimbofication, where they exaggerate these female features, where he was dressed in female clothing and had very large exaggerated breasts and was just talking to these women as this persona. So spent thousands of dollars doing this, and this all came out and people were kind of outraged for a lot of reasons, mainly because he is the husband of Kristi, who, as we all know, is part of this administration who is actively enacting policies that are against the LGBTQ community, and they are against anything having to do with the trans community. And so people saw it as this huge hypocrisy, right? And so there is all of this online chatter about it, lots of public shaming of him, lots of memes, and just online discourse about the whole thing. So what are your thoughts about this whole situation and the online discourse and all of that?
Several things come to mind with this topic. I know a big thing has been hypocrisy. How in the world is this happening when he is a direct reflection of her beliefs and values? That's not necessarily true.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we know a lot about her beliefs and values because of the person that she is. She's in politics.
Mm-hmm.
However, he doesn't necessarily have to 100% align it in every single way. So we're throwing that out there, but we don't exactly know if that's true.
Yeah.
I know he hasn't confirmed or denied things, and that makes sense. I'm sure they're working very closely with their legal team and their PR team to make sure that everything turns out as well as can be. I just think we're so quick as a society to just lump people together.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter that they're married. It could be friends. It could be people, from the same community. We all have our own brains. So I think we need to step back and maybe not be so quick to do that. What do you think?
You bring up a good point because you're right. They are two separate people. And as polarized as our political climate is, you would think that couples would have the exact same political beliefs because they are so opposite right now. But that's not the reality for a lot of people. For example, our vice president, J.D. Vance, is married to Usha, who, until she married him in 2014, was a Democrat. Right. And then was an independent from 2014 to 2022 and is now aligned with the Republican Party, probably just because who she's married to. But that goes to show that when they met, they were at different ends of the political spectrum. So it's not a foreign concept or foreign idea that people can be married and have different political beliefs. So, I mean, optically, yeah, it doesn't look great because we know, like you said, all of Kristi's political beliefs and things that she's championed, we don't know if he necessarily agrees with those things. So I think as far as that piece goes, the hypocrisy, I don't know that that conversation is fair to him specifically. Now, if Kristi knew about it and allowed him to do it and was okay with it, that would be hypocritical, right? Of Kristi, at least. But we don't know. She's saying she was blindsided, but like you said, I don't know. I don't necessarily buy that. They've been married for 34 years. And yes, people can hide these kinks, especially if they are perceived as like a shameful thing. But there's also a chance that she knew about it and she had an agreement that was okay with it because she wasn't going to engage in that. But she's like, I will still be married to you, so I will let you engage in that on your own. And some married couples have an agreement like that. I mean, that's nothing wrong with that, I guess. But yeah, we don't actually know what kind of agreement they had and whether she really was blindsided by it.
And on the flip side, if she wasn't, of course, that's heartbreaking. That's devastating. That is a form of cheating and really hard to deal with. So, as a society, we do not like a cheater.
Yeah.
And I also have a visceral response to that. A lot of close people to me have gone through that, and it's just heartbreaking. So that just leads me to think about how much is too much? When have we crossed the line as a society? Let's say she had no idea he cheated. He had this kink as a secret for so long. Yeah, that sucks. Not okay. Let's have that outrage. We are able to dissect it as a society and offer an opinion. However, oftentimes people like this get death threats.
Yeah.
And at that point, I'm like, it's too much, like from a clinical perspective. Why are we sending someone like that death threats? What is it about that person, or what does it say about us?
Yeah.
That makes us want to go to that really dark place. Is it okay to talk about on a podcast? Yeah. Or to talk about with your friends or your family, or even go on TikTok and just talk about it generally. But when people are so incredibly sharp with their words and it's harmful and it just gets to a really evil, vile place, like, whoa.
Yeah.
We really have to step back and evaluate that. Maybe we're projecting, or maybe, this is coming from an unhealed part of us. But that's really what scares me. Again, the cheating portion of it, do I condone? No. However, there's a chance that this guy won't even be able to walk around anymore or get another job. I know he was a high-level executive, and that sucks. I feel for him, and I don't think it's dramatic to say this is the type of person that could be contemplating suicide because of all of this. Again, hear me loud and clear. I don't condone cheating or anything like that. However, he's a person. He wanted to do this and he did it. They should resolve it between the two of them. Or again, as a society, we can offer our opinion on it, but it gets to a certain point where we need to pull back and we need to be healthy when it comes to our discourse.
Yeah, for sure. I think there does tend to be this mob mentality when it comes to social media and society at large, where we just pile it on to people because realistically, this is kind of the nature of cyberbullying, right? Like, you wouldn't say these things to his face if you knew him in person. You wouldn't say a lot of these things to his face. Maybe some people would, but in general, people wouldn't. And I talk about this with the kids that I work with all the time, this idea of cyberbullying. It is so much easier to talk trash about people online, especially when it is in the majority, right? When you are within the majority mindset and in the majority opinion, it does feel good to feel validated in your feelings, and it does feel good to have people be on your side. So I get why people do it, but I don't think it's right. At a certain point, you have to realize these are still people and they still have emotions and they still have lives that they have to live outside of this controversy. And yeah, it sucks. And like you said, I'm on the same page with you. I think cheating is terrible and it shouldn't happen. And I also see that Kristi has been kind of like ringleader of so much harm that's been done in our country with ICE and all of that stuff. All that said, I still think shaming to the point that it has gone to now is also wrong because it's bullying, and I don't condone bullying even for the worst of people because I just don't think anybody really deserves that. People deserve consequences for what they do and people deserve repercussions for what happens, but I don't think the shaming and bullying should be part of those repercussions, right? There's going to be enough fallout with his marriage and maybe his career and all that stuff, and so the public shaming is just insult to injury that isn't necessary at this point.
And another thing is this whole kink shaming thing that has been happening around this topic. And a kink is just a non-conventional sexual practice. Some of us like things that are vanilla and very typical, and others don't. And just because it may be different doesn't mean that it's bad. just because it may be weird to you doesn't mean that it's wrong. So again, cheating and all that aside, the actual kink isn't problematic. There's nothing wrong with that. And so that just sucks that people are coming out and just being like, oh my God, why would you do that? I saw the photo, and is it an unconventional type of a photo? Yeah. However, that's what he was into. And I'm sure there's so many people who like to do that too. Again, just because it's not your cup of tea doesn't mean anything. We don't need to assign negativity to it. I think for a lot of people, it's just like, oh, that's over there. That's for the crazy people, the deviant people, the bad, scary, weird people. And I think it's an opportunity to just reframe things and to expand your mindset to understand that your way isn't always best.
Yeah, and that's in line with stuff that we talked about in our previous episode about polyamory versus monogamy, where just because it's different doesn't mean it's wrong. And I think it really speaks to this internalized transphobia, internalized homophobia that we have as a society still, where seeing a man dress up as a woman is still quote unquote comical, right? Because if it's a kink and if it's something that he wants to do, that he's willingly choosing to do, who's to say that it's wrong or it shouldn't be funny? It's just a thing that he does, right? And we are really quick as a society, even I would even say just as a liberal society, to champion drag queens and all of that. But whenever a straight man is dressing up, all of a sudden it's funny. And again, it's different, right? And it's not what I would do. It's not what a lot of people would do. But like you said, just because it's different doesn't mean it's wrong. And I don't condone shaming for things that are different, even though it may feel uncomfortable for us.
This whole conversation reminds me of Bruce Jenner, who transitioned into Caitlyn Jenner. It is different because we're dealing with someone who is trans compared to what we're talking about with this other situation where it's someone who has a specific kink. So I want to make that disclaimer. I'm not saying it's the same. However, the public response to it is very similar. People had this visceral response when Bruce Jenner came out and said, I'm trans. I've felt this way for years and years, but now I'm out and this is the new me. He was an Olympian. He had to hide it for a really long time. And at a certain point was like, you know what? I'm going to stop suppressing this side of myself. I am going to just come out. And then when the transition happened, a lot of things did progress. A lot of things were healed within Caitlyn. And I just remember, though, as a society, a lot of people are like, absolutely not. You're an Olympian. What? You will always be Bruce to me. I will never call you Caitlyn. You don't even look the part. No way. And would laugh at that and pick Caitlyn apart. And that just broke my heart. Again, clinically, you have this person who is saying, this is my truth. Even if you don't believe it, or feel like it looks right or seems right. This is a person who is talking about their lived experience. What right do you have to say that that's not true?
Yeah.
And this transition happened years ago at this point. So it just reminds me about Bryon, because it's just like, okay, again, not trans, but it's a person who likes to engage in this behavior, and we're coming at him with pitchforks. I just think that's not appropriate. And again, for those people who take it to the extreme, sending those death threats, very concerning. And it shouldn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, as a society, I think we do need to do a better job of just having compassion for people in general, even for people we don't agree with politically or otherwise. Like Kristi, like, yeah, there are a lot of things that we don't agree with her, because she has championed so many problematic things. And she is still a woman who has been married for 34 years and was potentially blindsided by this. And that would be really hard for anyone to deal with. So yes, we can be compassionate and still disagree with her policies, things that she has championed for so long. Like, both things can happen, but I think that's a very difficult thing for people to hold, that they can be compassionate without agreeing with someone.
Yeah, because they possibly agreed to a monogamous relationship where they had boundaries. This is what we can do. This is what we can't do. And if he consented to that and crossed the line, that's really devastating. That is a betrayal.
Mm-hmm.
She's working her job, busy on the road, doing whatever she has to do, thinking that everything is good at home. And if he's been doing this for years and years and years, that could be really hard to sit with once you find out. It's like, oh, okay. It could make someone think, is this whole relationship a lie? Cool, I can't trust you. How are we going to move forward? And that really sucks.
Mm-hmm.
That also makes me think, too, I know I've been calling it an affair, but is it an affair?
Mm-hmm.
How much was he doing? Was it just logging on, talking to these webcam girls and showing them certain photos and looking at them most likely naked? For a lot of us, that would be cheating, but maybe for them, they had some kind of an agreement
Mm-hmm.
that that's okay as long as you don't physically meet up with anyone.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, and that's kind of what I had alluded to earlier, that it could have been a situation where she didn't understand that kink of his, but loved him enough to want to still be married to him, but like you said, had this agreement that he can do this on his free time and meet that need for himself. So yeah, so that could have been something that they talked about before, and that wouldn't be wrong. But again, if she truly was blindsided like she's saying that she was, that would be really devastating for her.
We don't even know. Half the time, they be lying to us.
Yeah, really.
I think it would be a great move when it comes to PR to just be like, girl, just say you had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
Just say you were blindsided and
I'm legally blind.
I know the way that I said that.
Yeah.
If you know, you know. I can imagine they all jumped on a Zoom or like, okay, how are we going to spend this? Maybe it's because I've watched too much Scandal
Yeah.
where you know how things go in the back office. And there's also a chance that she's hashtag just a girl, had zero clue. And yeah, that would be really difficult to receive and to face, especially because you're a political figure.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't know. All this is alleged.
It is. All of it's alleged, and a lot of it is probably true, but again, we don't actually know. All of it is speculation. It's just based on hearsay. It's based on witness testimonies, which we know people can lie. That is a thing. Not saying that they are lying, but there is a chance that they are, right? And there's a chance that it's true. We don't actually know right now. And like we've talked about, like public shaming in that capacity can be really difficult. There was actually a book that I read a few years ago called So You've Been Publicly Shamed, and talked about a lot of these stories of people who were publicly shamed for different things and just the impact that it had on their whole life. And it really just wrecked people's lives, and that's the age we live in right now, where everything lives online forever. And once you are demonized online, there's really no going back from that. You kind of lose your whole life unless you completely change your identity and move somewhere where nobody knows you. But that's a lot for people to have to do. So yeah, I think it's unfortunate what he did, right? All of that is wrong, like we've mentioned many times. And it's unfortunate the backlash that he's continuing to get every day, and just the vile things that are being said about him continuously. And like you said, he is someone who would potentially end his life over this. And I don't think that's fair for anybody to have to get to that point mentally and emotionally.
People cheat all the time.
Yeah, 100%.
Are there kinks that happen while they're cheating? Probably.
Mm-hmm.
Is it recorded in the same way? Maybe not. So I think a lot of people are self-righteous. Oh my God, what? It's like, you literally just cheated 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Or maybe you're not the person who cheated, but you're the person who stayed.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're kind of throwing up your pitchfork towards the situation. It's just like, come on, where's the compassion?
Yeah. I am curious, though, if the situation were to happen in an alternate timeline, what do you think the public response should have been? Or what do you think the fallout should have been in an ideal situation?
We talk about the facts. If they had an agreement in their marriage and he crossed the line, probably most likely cheating, then we'll call that out. not okay. You consented to a monogamous relationship. You stepped out, not okay, period.
Hmm.
Instead of picking him apart, slut shaming, kink shaming, and making these think pieces that just really pick him apart to his core.
Hmm.
That is, to me, from a clinical perspective, not okay. What stuff have you done
Hmm.
behind closed doors? What are the skeletons in your closet? A
Yeah.
lot of people are keyboard warriors hiding behind user 1234567 8. No one knows who you are, and you're like, bleepity bleepity bleep, kill yourself.
Yeah.
And it's just too much. So, yeah, that's fine to have an opinion. That's fine to call it out. Let's say he does hold the same beliefs that she has. Not okay. Hypocritical. You have caused a lot of harm to a lot of communities, specifically marginalized communities.
Hmm.
And we want you to hold yourself accountable, admit you're wrong, and stop doing that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's okay to call something out for it being wrong, but I think if this were to happen in an alternate universe, and it really goes to show like how not just how people respond to it, but how the media reports it, right? Because people we know are all about money, and these media companies are all about the clicks and the shares. So they're going to sensationalize it. They're going to say it in a way that is shaming, that does create this emotional response. And unfortunately, anger and disgust and all of these like negative emotions tend to be more visceral than positive emotions. So they're going to create these negative emotions as much as they can to get people to share it, to get people to engage with it, to get people to continue to comment on it and all this stuff, which makes everything worse for everybody involved. So I do think the media needs to be more responsible with how they report a lot of these things. And like you said, just give the facts. Because at the end of the day, we kind of model what is given out, right? So if it is just reported in a kind of matter of fact way, then people, obviously not all the time, but people may be more inclined to respond in a more matter of fact, balanced way. But if it's already leaning negative and already leaning sensational, already leaning visceral and angry and vile, that's just going to continue the cycle. And so I do think the onus is on media a lot of times and how they report things, but the onus is also on the individual on how they respond and how they comment and their online behavior. So I think a lot of people have different responsibilities that they need to adhere to when it comes to scandals and things like that in the public eye. But obviously we can't change it. All we can do is be responsible for ourselves and just do better going forward with anybody who has these scandals come out. 'Cause I know it's going to happen. It's part of society. But
Media is known for being very manipulative. And to your point, it's supply and demand.
yeah,
They're supplying it because certain headlines continue to sell. It's all about hashtag capitalism.
yeah,
So, as much as we want real journalism, that's most likely never going to happen on a mass level. We get pockets of that, but generally speaking, let's get the spicy, dramatic, interesting headline and see those magazines or newspaper, whatever the form of communication is, sell like hotcakes.
yeah. And like I said, it's like supply and demand. So if we're continuing to engage with it and continuing to share it, continuing to buy it, they're going to continue to make it. So it's kind of this vicious cycle that we live in that I think has created this monster that is the media today. And I think social media and just the ease that we can consume, but then also the ease that we can share it and spread it has made things just so much worse for a lot of people.
And that photo is very damning.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they say a photo is worth 1,000 words. You look at that photo and you develop a whole narrative around it. I also wonder who, what, when, where, and why about the sex worker who released that footage.
Yeah.
Did the media go to her? Was it someone in their close quarters who found out and went to her?
Mhm.
Seems like a blackmailing thing, possibly. I really wonder the details behind that revelation.
Yeah, I think I did read somewhere that this sex worker had something happen to a family member where they felt like Kristi was responsible because she's kind of in charge of all the ice raids and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so because this sex worker was personally affected by it in a negative way, she's just like it's like retaliation. It's
Oh,
like, well, this is what your husband is doing and put it all over. And
gotcha.
so that sucks, because that's very real. That's what happens. But again, I don't think the backlash that has resulted from it, I don't think all of it is warranted.
Okay. She's like, mm-mm.
Hmm.
So you can play that game.
Yeah.
In summary, I feel for Bryon if he does not subscribe to Kristi's beliefs.
Hmm.
And also, he can honestly say that his acts were a part of an agreement that they had together. As unconventional as it may be, that's when I would feel for him.
Hmm.
Because he could just be like, oh my gosh, I did nothing wrong. Like, we agreed. I don't believe the things that she believed. Yes, I'm still married to her, but that's conversation for another day. I'm the victim here. I had this great job and this and that, and my life is ruined. If all of that's true, then I'd be like, ooh, I have a lot of compassion because of the humanity of it all.
Hmm.
However, if that was not an agreement in their marriage and he was doing all this on the side for years and years and years and spending all that money, then I don't feel for him on that level because he did cross a line and betrayed an agreement that they had. And if he did hold the same beliefs, then I'd be like, you are a hypocrite.
Hmm.
And do you deserve death threats? Absolutely not.
Hmm.
Is it okay that people have criticism, thoughts, and deep feelings about it? Absolutely, yes. So it really just depends on what the truth is, which will we ever get? Probably not.
Yeah. No, I think worst case scenario, yeah, he does align with Kristi and he didn't have that agreement. Even with that, yes, I do think he deserved some level of
Scrutiny.
scrutiny and reprimanding and embarrassment. But again, I think it crosses the line when it's shame upon shame upon shame, and getting to the point where it's threatening someone's life and also threatening his life in the sense that he is contemplating suicide. Granted, I don't know if that's where he's at, but I could very well see that it could lead that way. And so if he was, I wouldn't be surprised because of just the amount of backlash he's been getting for it. So all of that said, I don't think the amount that he's getting is okay, regardless of how much I would disagree with him if everything else was what we had mentioned.
So, yeah, this is a very nuanced conversation with a lot that we know and a lot that we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think it's important to slice and dice it apart like we have been doing
Mm-hmm.
because it's easy to just paint a broad stroke, like, oh, it's wrong, death
Mhm.
sentence. It's just like, okay,
Yeah.
hold on. But again, as clinicians, that's what we're trained to do.
Yeah, and even just looking politically at large in our country, yeah, Republicans in general currently are just advocating for so many crazy things that we don't agree with, and our president is doing what he's doing. But even with all of that, I don't think anybody really deserves death threats or bullying, even though, again, I know our president bullies people all the time, but I really do believe two wrongs don't make a right. Just because someone is bullying other people relentlessly doesn't mean that they should be bullied relentlessly either. Now, I do think there should be accountability held and scrutiny for sure and consequences for people's actions, but I don't think the consequences should be additional bullying.
Agreed.
Right? Yeah.
You got to be mature
Hmm.
to have that mindset.
Yeah. But that's it for this episode. We would love to know your thoughts on this whole Kristi Noem, Bryon Noem situation. Do you think he deserves all the public shame that he's getting, or do you think we've gone too far as a society? So you've heard our thoughts, but we would just advocate for anybody to choose kindness when you can.
Thank you guys, as always, for listening or watching if you're on YouTube. We really appreciate it. We don't have all the answers, so we would love to hear your thoughts, your feelings about this topic. So let us know whether this is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, YouTube. We will look for it and we will comment back. Also, you can share this episode to someone that you think could benefit from it. Until next time, thank you guys, and we'll see you later. Bye.
Later.